Sales is a quick game. Like you've got 4 seconds to make a first impression. You've got 10 seconds. If your pitch doesn't land, the moment's gone. And guess what? So is the client. In sales, it's not necessarily the best product that wins. It's the clearest message delivered with absolute certainty from a person who believes themselves as an authority and sees themselves as an expert. And they project that confidence and that certainty onto their client. And if you can't say what you do with power and precision in 10 seconds or less, you're going to keep losing business to people with half your skill just because they said it better. So let me show you how you can fix this. The goal of an elevator pitch isn't to be impressive. It's to be unshakably clear. It's to be concise. See, if people don't get what you do in the first 10 seconds, they've already tuned out. I've watched so many salespeople confuse people when trying to tell them what they do. They use acronyms that, is common language in their industry that the buyer doesn't understand. They try to impress the buyer by using words and terminology that the buyer or prospect doesn't know about, doesn't understand, doesn't see the value in. See, most people try to say way too much at a higher level than they need to, and they speak way too fast. So instead of sounding confident, what they try to do or end up doing is sounding scattered. And I'm telling you, scattered doesn't convert. See, a good pitch doesn't just explain what it is that you do. It organizes your value into someone else's mind. So they understand what you do and they understand the value of what you do filtered through a need that they have. And it makes you easy to remember when you can do that. It's easy to repeat. And guess what? It's easy to trust. See, the best pitch doesn't sound like a performance. It sounds like absolute certainty. That's what people are really buying. See, every powerful pitch does 3 things. Number 1, it names the problem. Specifically nails the problem that when the prospect hear it, they say, yep, that's a problem I have. Number 2, it positions you as a guide, an authority. Number 3, it activates what's possible. See, you're not the hero. The buyer's the hero. And your job is to clearly state the problem that they face and how you help them solve it. That they have all the resources within them. They have at their disposal everything necessary to fix the problem. They're one decision away. See, most people lose the pitch in that first sentence because they talk about themselves. Instead, you want to lead with the shift that you create. See, a great pitch doesn't focus on your title. It doesn't focus on your process. It focuses on the transformation that you help people experience and that your prospect's looking for. So let me show you right now how to customize the pitch to speak directly to the person's industry and the central problem that they're facing. So let's say that I'm at a BNI or I'm at Chambers meeting, and I know that the person who's asking me the question, what do you do? I know that they run a real estate office. So what I'm going to say to them is, how you have agents right now who have buyers and sellers stuck on the sidelines waiting for interest rates to change, right? And they'll often say, yeah. Well, the buyers want to wait because, they want a lower payment. And sellers, they are waiting because they want more buyers who can qualify to pay for their property. And this has your agents trapped, right? Well, what I do is I work with your agents to teach them a really creative language pattern that gets both buyers and sellers off the sidelines and back into the market. See, notice that I didn't give a specific example yet of how I do this, because what I want the prospect to say, how do you do that? What I'm trying to do is create curiosity. Or I want them to say, well, what does that look like? And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to move to what my next commitment objective is, which in this case is simply trying to secure a meeting for me to go beyond an elevator pitch, which never closes anyone. I'm not going to try to close somebody in the middle of a B&I meeting, at the coffee pot when they're asking me, what do you do? What I'm going to do is I'm going to shoot for a commitment objective that gets them curious, saying, well, how do you do that? That's a problem I have. I'd like to understand how you solve that problem. And my commitment objective, once I've kind of salted their tongue and got them curious, is just to get them to agree to allow me to speak to them in a little bit more of a formal setting. I want to get them into a place where I can do intelligence gathering and meet them to build massive rapport. And so I can advance the conversation into a true sales conversation and then close. So when they say, well, how do you do that? I'd say something like this. Well, we don't have a lot of time right here. Would it make sense for us to grab maybe a cup of coffee and talk for 10 minutes tomorrow? And I can walk you through the entire process. Would it make sense for us to do that? That's it. It's not a high pressure sales, is it? Now, before we go any further, what I want you to do is I want you to click on the link in the description and I want you to download a free guide I created. It's called the Prospect Personality Guide, and I created it just for you. What this guide does is it connects everything that I'm teaching here so that you can adapt your pitch, even your entire full sales presentations, to the 4 main personality styles that has been identified by Harvard. See, every person on the planet fits into one of 4 styles: a dominating style, an inspiring style, a supportive style, or a calculative style. And when you know how to tailor your pitch to match the way each buyer makes decisions, it's a total game changer. Now, you're talking the specific language to each prospect, and it's how they process, it's how they hear. It sounds like music to their ears. The words, the tonalities that make them feel safe and encourage them to lean in. Otherwise, you lose about 75% or more of your prospects simply by mistaking their personality and miscommunicating to them. See, most sales trainers never teach you this critical skill, but it makes a huge difference in your ability to hook prospects and then close them. So the link's in the description below. Download it right now and then come right back so you can perfect your pitch. If you've ever delivered a pitch and it felt just like it didn't land, I'm going to tell you why. See, every buyer filters your message through their own priorities and through their own personality style. And if your pitch doesn't match that, you know what they do? They just tune out. There are 4 core decision styles that were identified in a study in the 1920s by a Harvard researcher. Everybody on the planet fits into one of these 4 styles. Now, we all have a blending of all of them, but we all have a dominant style as our natural style. And then we also have a style that we adapt to when we're at work or with other people. So there's specific ways that we can recognize them. And once we recognize the style, then we can change our pitch to fit them. So there's the D type. That's a driver. They're very results oriented, right? They're fast moving. I'm a D. Like, I make decisions very quickly. I'm not worried about making the right decision. I'll make the decision right later. These are bottom line thinkers, right? So I always say when you're working with a driver and you're talking about your newborn baby, they'll interrupt you and say, look, don't tell me about the labor pains. Show me the baby, right? They want results. They want to know what's the result and how fast can I get there? Right? That's what they want. So the pitch has to be really clear. It's got to be outcomes based. You've got to be quick. You got to be efficient with your words. You've got to talk about the ROI. Skip all the fluff. Don't worry about giving them details. Don't worry about giving them the how. They want to know, what's the end result look like. So let's say that you sell marketing consulting services and you're selling to Jim, who's a roofer. And Jim's roofing company is growing. He's looking for a marketing company. You meet him at a B&I and you identify Jim as being a D. And he says, what do you do? You're going to say, look, what I do is I help growth stage companies double their lead conversion in 90 days without spending any more on their ads. That's it. I help growth stage companies. He's a growth stage company. Double their lead conversion in 90 days without spending more on ads. Now, you would think that if you were talking to somebody else, you would want to then go on and explain how you do that and, how you market on Facebook and Instagram and all. No, Jim doesn't want to hear any of that. What you said to Jim is gold. You know what Jim's going to say? As soon as you say, without spending, more on your ads, great, let's get together. Or he's going to say, let's talk more about that. That's what he's going to say, because he's results oriented. D's are very very quick decision makers. They don't need all the details. They're ready to go. Now, let's say that you're selling to an I type. This is the influencer, and you'll notice their traits. These people tend to be very expressive, so they'll laugh louder at every joke. Oftentimes, they're going to wear colorful things. So if it's a man, he'll wear a pocket squares, a blue blazer, maybe a pink or an orange or a red pocket square. A lady might have 3 or 4 earrings in her ear, maybe one in her nose, maybe one in her lip, colorful eye makeup, maybe rings on every finger. They're flashy. They tend to be socially optimistic. They're storytellers, and they want to know, is this going to be fun? Is it going to be exciting? Is it going to be aligned with who I am? So the pitch has to include energy. It's got to have a little bit of a story. It's got to talk about the impact on people. And they're very visual. They want to know the vision. So you've got to let your personality come through. So let's say that you sell wellness coaching, right? And now you're at a B&I or a chamber and you meet Mary and you identify Mary as a high I. And Mary says, what do? I'm going to say, look, I work with high-performing women who feel burned out, even when everything else looks good on the outside. And together, we build lives that feel as good as they want to look. That's it. Notice what I've said. Feeling burned out, even when everything looks good on the outside, visual. And then together, remember, these people want unity. They want to bring everybody together, the life of the party. And we build lives that feel as good as they look. Remember, these are visual people. Let's go to the S type. This is the supporter role. They have traits where they're very steady. They're not going to wear flashy grays, blacks, darker solid colors. That's what you're going to see them wearing. They're very loyal people. They're patient, and they are risk averse. They don't want to take risks. They want a sure bet. And so what they want to know is your solution going to be safe for them? They want to know, are you going to take care of me? And are you going to take care of my people? They're loyal. They're looking out for everybody. So the pitch has to be reassuring. It's got to talk about a process or a system that's proven. It's got to be in alignment with their values. You've got to talk long-term, not short-term. So let's say you're a financial advisor and you're talking to Jim. Jim is an S-type personality style. And he says, what do? You're going to say, I help families build stable, long-term wealth using conservative strategies that they can actually understand and trust for the long haul. I help families build stable, long-term wealth using conservative strategies that they can actually understand and trust for the long term. So right now, what I'm trying to do is I'm giving you the language pattern, not just the tonality. The tonality in all of these is going to be absolute certainty. But we're going to use absolute certainty in different tonality styles. I'm not going to come, for an S. I'm going to, we help families build stable, long-term. I'm not going to talk with absolute certainty and authority that way to an S. It scares them. It's a little too much energy. But to a D, I might. So I'm going to adjust my tonality, but to the style, I'm going to keep the same language pattern. Then we have that C type, the calculating. These are typically analysts, doctors, lawyers, accountants. These are like the scientists, and they are very detail focused. They're logical. They're data. They are data driven. They want to know the numbers, right? They want to know, does this make sense? And where's the proof? Like, can you back up what you say? So if you say it's 97% or we increase sales by 37%, they're going to love that you're giving them a specific percentage. But they're going to want to know, how did you get to that number? So the pitch has to include methodology. It's got to be something that's a measurable outcome. They're very respectful of credentials. Precision matters. Like these type are the type that want to measure twice, cut once. So let's say that you do business operations consultants and you're consulting for a law firm and you're being interviewed by Mary, who is the top lawyer in the firm. And she says, tell me what you do. Tell me more about what you do. You're going to say, look, I use a 3-step diagnostic process to identify where your systems are leaking time and money. And then I help you optimize efficiency with zero guesswork. Do you see the absolute certainty in that? The specifics, no guesswork, right? We want to optimize efficiency. The real secret to a world-class pitch isn't just what to say. That matters. The words matter. But also, equally as important, is going to be how you say it and how you feel when you say it. Remember, sales is the transference of emotion. So you've heard me say this before. It's not about pressure. It's about clarity and certainty. So if you're not sold on yourself, if your energy doesn't match the words, your words will betray you. You have to embody the frequency of someone who knows exactly who they are, what they do, and why what they do matters. Like you've got to know with absolute certainty what your value is. The best elevator pitch is one that other people want to say as soon as you're done. How do you do that? Or when can we talk next? See, what that means is that you've got to be short, you've got to be clear, you've got to be punchy, you got to be right, you got to nail what their problem is. Like I talked about for the real estate agent, every real estate agent has as a problem buyers and sellers that are on the sideline and agents who can't get them into the game. That's almost an always problem for real estate people. We're not trying to be fancy. We don't want to be over-rehearsed. We want to be real. So you'll know your pitch is right when somebody says, wow, that's interesting, or wow, that's awesome. Like, how do you do that? And then they're going to repeat it to someone else. They're going to be able to identify what you do and tell other people. So now you're talking to Mary, the real estate agent, and somebody else joins the conversation and says, oh, geez, hey, Mary, they know Mary, and say, oh, who's this? Oh, this is my friend Jim. Jim's in sales training, and he helps buyers and sellers get into the marketplace regardless of the interest rates. Wow, how does he do that? That's when you know you've got it. If you want more referrals, you don't need more marketing. You need a pitch that people can remember and they can repeat it and that it speaks to their problem. Here's the truth. If people don't get what you do, they can't trust you with what they need. And so your elevator pitch is what gets your foot in the door. And your pitch won't become powerful because it's perfect. It'll become powerful because it's real and it speaks to a problem that they have. Now look, before we wrap up, as I said earlier, if you want to be able to instantly recognize the type of buyer that you have and their personality style that I just walked you through, what I want you to do is I want you to go and make sure that you click right on the button and download the Prospect Personality Guide. The link is in the description below, and it's going to show you how you can instantly spot each style. The personality style drives their behavior, and this also leads to how they make buying decisions. So it's going to give you exactly what to say, and more importantly, what not to say to build trust and to move forward in the sales process. If you don't understand this, you risk misreading people. And when you misread people, there's a disconnect between you and them. You lose deals that you probably should have closed. So you can click on the link below in the description. And once you've downloaded the guide, what I want you to do is I want you to click and I want you to watch the next video, how to sell anything to anyone. And in that video, I'm going to show you how to apply these personality styles, not just to your elevator pitch, but to the entire sales process so you can close faster, serve better, and get skyrocketing results that you've never had before. I'll see you there.